You ever realize how loud the world gets when you finally decide to go quiet? Everyone suddenly has an opinion. Everyone wants to pull you back into the noise. But here's what they don't know. That silence you're sitting in. That's not emptiness. That's power. Because when you focus on yourself and stay silent, you stop performing and start transforming. There's something powerful about sitting in silence while the world races around you, something grounded, rooted, unshaken. But the thing is, most people confuse silence with weakness. They think if you're not speaking, you're not leading. If you're not posting, you're not progressing. If you're not reacting, you're not aware. But what they don't understand is that silence, real intentional silence, is a weapon most people are too afraid to hold because it takes strength to be quiet in a noisy world. It takes courage to choose observation over reaction. We live in a time where everyone wants to be seen. Loud voices dominate every room, every scroll, every conversation. People are quick to tell you what they're doing, what they think, what they believe, whether it's asked for or not. And in that chaos, the ones who sit still, who focus inward, who stay silent, they stand out not by trying to be seen, but by simply not needing to be. And that's the difference. Because when you're secure in who you're becoming, you don't feel the need to announce every version of yourself to the world. You don't chase applause for every little shift in your life. You let your energy speak long before your voice does. Silence becomes your strategy, not because you're hiding, but because you're preparing, you're building, you're studying, you're elevating in a way that noise just can't support. Silence is not the absence of thought, it's the sharpening of it. And when you begin to embrace that, when you sit with yourself and really listen, not to the opinions, not to the outside noise, but to the voice within you, that's when real change starts. You begin to hear what truly matters. You start to notice how much of your energy has been tied up in things that don't serve you, conversations that drain you, arguments that change nothing, approval that only fills a temporary hole, and you stop feeding it. Because when you choose silence, you stop reacting to every little thing that pulls at your emotions. You begin to detach from the need to constantly defend, explain, or prove yourself. You realize not everything requires a response. Not every battle is worth your energy. Some things are better handled in stillness because stillness allows you to respond from wisdom, not impulse. And make no mistake, people will notice. They'll wonder why you're not chiming in anymore, why you're not as accessible, why you're so quiet. That's when you know the shift is working. That's when you know you're evolving, because silence makes people uncomfortable. It forces them to deal with their own noise, and your calm presence becomes a mirror. They see what they lack. So you hold the silence, you protect it, because it's not just about staying quiet. It's about reclaiming your power. Every time you don't respond, you choose yourself. Every time you don't engage, you rise a little higher. You start to operate on a different frequency, one where you no longer have to fight for space because you've already owned your lane. And eventually you notice something, your silence starts working for you. People begin to respect it. Your presence becomes more impactful, not less. Your words, when you do choose to speak, carry more weight because you didn't waste them. You didn't hand them out for free. You reserved them for moments that mattered. That's power. That's self-respect. That's mastery. And that's why silence isn't weakness. It's strategy. It's discipline. It's transformation in motion. Energy isn't just about how much sleep you got last night or how strong you feel in the gym. It's deeper than that. It's mental. It's emotional. It's spiritual. And the truth is, you are either spending that energy or investing it every second of every day. When you're not focused on yourself, when your attention is scattered, your energy follows. And most of the time, you don't even notice how much you're giving away until you feel completely empty. You give pieces of yourself to people who don't value you. You replay conversations that already happened. You try to control outcomes that are completely out of your hands. You get caught up in distractions, scrolling through other people's lives, comparing your path to theirs, wondering why you're not where they are. All of that, every thought, every emotional reaction is draining you, not just mentally, but energetically. You wake up tired even after 8 hours of sleep because your soul is running on fumes. But the moment you start focusing on yourself, you begin to reclaim that energy. You start to feel whole again. And it's not just about pulling away from people or shutting out the world. It's about redirecting your attention inward. You stop giving away the most valuable part of yourself, your focus, to things that don't grow you. And instead, you begin pouring that focus into your own healing, your own goals, your own peace. The world will always try to pull you in 100 different directions. There will always be something demanding your attention, someone expecting your reaction, a situation tempting your involvement. But when you're focused on yourself, you learn to pause. You learn to ask, is this helping me become who I'm trying to be? And if the answer is no, you walk away, not out of bitterness, but out of wisdom, because energy is not infinite. It has to be managed with intention. Think about it. How many times have you let someone else's chaos become your own? How often do you take on problems that were never yours to carry just because you felt like you had to fix it, explain it, or justify yourself. That's what happens when you're not focused on you. You begin to live reactively instead of purposefully. But when you shift that focus inward, everything starts to change. You begin to recognize your patterns. You catch yourself before you spiral. You stop running from yourself and start returning to yourself. It's in that space where you're fully tuned in that you begin to elevate. You make better decisions. You don't rush into things just to fill a void. You're more grounded, more present, more discerning. You realize that peace isn't found in isolation. It's found in alignment. And alignment only happens when your energy and your attention are working together, not against each other. And here's the wild part. When you focus on yourself, you don't just feel better. You move different. You stop chasing things. You stop begging for attention, validation, or clarity. You create those things for yourself. You become the source, not the seeker. And that shift is everything, because now you're not waiting for life to hand you peace. You're building it from the inside out. People will notice. Too, your energy becomes more magnetic, not because you're trying to be anything, but because you're no longer leaking. You're no longer spread thin. You've pulled yourself back into alignment, and that kind of self-possession is rare. It speaks without speaking. It draws without demanding. That's what happens when you stop living outside yourself and start living from within. And sure, there will be people who don't understand it, who think you've changed, who say you've become distant or selfish. But what they call selfish is actually self-respect. What they call distance is actually direction. And that direction is taking you exactly where you're meant to go, without apology, without explanation. Because when you focus on yourself, you stop wasting energy trying to be everything to everyone. You stop shrinking to make others comfortable. You begin to show up fully in your own life. And that version of you, the one who's present, powerful, and focused, that's the one who's unstoppable. There's something sacred about growth that happens in silence, not in front of an audience, not with applause, not with eyes watching every step, but in the quiet, in the hidden moments when no one is checking for you. That's where the real transformation happens. And yet so many people are addicted to showing the process. They feel like if they don't share it, it doesn't count. If no one sees the progress, the journey somehow loses its value. But it's the exact opposite. Growth doesn't need an announcement. It just needs space. When you truly focus on yourself and embrace silence, you begin to understand that not everything needs to be public. Not every plan has to be spoken out loud. Not every change needs to be posted or praised. Some of your most powerful breakthroughs will come when no one is looking. No spotlight, no feedback, just you facing your patterns, confronting your fears, healing what's been hurt, and building something better in the dark. And here's what most people miss: the deeper the growth, the quieter it becomes. Think about nature. Trees don't make noise when they grow. Mountains don't shout as they rise. It all happens in stillness. And the same goes for us. The more grounded you become, the less you feel the need to explain your progress to others. The more focused you are, the less validation you seek. You start living for the inner shifts, not the outer approval. The problem is, we've been conditioned to measure growth by visibility. If people can see it, if they're clapping for it, if they're impressed by it, then it must be real. But true growth is often invisible. It's the kind of work you do on the inside, the kind that doesn't show up right away in pictures or posts, but in peace, in your energy, in how you carry yourself when no one's watching. It's not about changing how the world sees you. It's about changing how you see yourself. And when you grow in silence, you avoid all the noise that comes with premature exposure, the opinions, the doubts, the unsolicited advice, the comparison. You don't give anyone a chance to distort your path because you're still walking it. You're still figuring it out. And that space, that privacy, is not a weakness. It's protection. It's a sacred container where your potential can take shape without pressure. There's a reason the most powerful transformations often happen in isolation. It's because in that space, you're not performing for anyone. You're not adjusting to fit someone else's expectations. You're not trying to be understood. You're trying to understand yourself. And that level of self-honesty, that level of internal alignment only comes when you stop broadcasting and start listening to your own thoughts, your own instincts, your own truth. People often say they want to change, but they keep surrounding themselves with noise. They keep announcing every step, but real change doesn't need a microphone. It needs stillness. It needs consistency. It needs time, because nothing worth building is built overnight. And the more you protect that process, the more powerful the outcome becomes. And eventually, when the time is right, when the growth is rooted and unshakable, people will see it. You won't have to say a word. Your presence will carry it. Your choices, your mindset, your energy, it'll all speak for itself. Because growth done in silence is undeniable. It doesn't need to be proven. It doesn't need a caption. It simply is. So let them wonder. Let them assume. Let them question your silence. You don't owe anyone a roadmap to your evolution. What you owe is to yourself to grow honestly, deeply, and patiently. Because when you give your growth the privacy it deserves, you give it the power to last. And that kind of growth, it changes everything. Not everyone deserves access to your journey. That's a hard truth, but it's one you start to understand deeply the moment you begin to take your life seriously. When you're evolving, when you're healing, rebuilding, and stepping into a stronger version of yourself, you realize how sacred your space is. And more importantly, you realize how much of that space you've carelessly opened to people who were never meant to be there. We live in a world where oversharing is glorified, where people document every move, every goal, every next step. But growth isn't a group project. Healing doesn't require an audience, and progress doesn't need to be put on display for it to be real. When you give too many people access, you allow too many voices into a process that was meant to be between you and your purpose. And some of those voices, they'll confuse you. They'll project their fears. They'll misread your path and speak on things they don't understand. Suddenly, you find yourself second-guessing decisions that were once clear to you because you let someone in who never saw the vision the way you did. That's why protecting your peace isn't about being distant or cold. It's about being intentional. You have to start asking yourself, why am I sharing this? Who am I letting into this part of my life? What value are they bringing? Because your time, your energy, your growth, they're too valuable to keep handing out like a free sample. You've worked too hard, been through too much to let someone's lack of understanding derail what you're building. And here's the truth most people avoid. Not everyone clapping for you is happy for you. Not every listener is a supporter. Some people are just curious. Some people are waiting for you to slip. And others, they're quietly hoping your growth doesn't outshine their comfort. So when you move silently, when you stop sharing every detail, you start to see who's genuinely connected to you and who was just entertained by your story. The silence becomes a filter. It separates the real from the fake, the supportive from the envious. And the moment you stop feeling the need to update everyone on your life, you start living it on your terms. You move with freedom. You don't owe anyone an explanation. You don't need to prove how far you've come. You just keep going quietly, intentionally, fully. You start to understand that being private isn't being secretive. It's being wise. It's knowing that not everyone is equipped to handle the weight of your becoming, that not everyone is meant to walk with you through the fire. Some people are only good for the version of you that no longer exists. And as painful as that realization might be, it's necessary because you can't step into the future while dragging dead weight from your past. And it's not about cutting people off in anger. It's about choosing yourself with clarity. It's about knowing that some people were never meant to go the whole way. They were chapters, not the whole book. And when you hold on to someone out of guilt or fear, you delay your own process. You stall your own healing. You dim your own light. So you protect your journey. You protect your peace. You set boundaries not to offend, but to honor the new standard you've created for your life. And you don't apologize for it because the right people, the real ones, they'll respect your silence. They'll understand your focus. They won't need constant access to believe in your growth. They'll trust it even when they can't see it. And the ones who get upset about your silence, about your boundaries, about your shift, they were never supporting you in the first place. They were just enjoying the version of you that didn't know your worth yet. So let the silence speak. Let the distance grow. Let your growth unfold quietly without explanation or permission, because your journey is yours and not everyone deserves a seat at your table. At some point, you stop feeling the need to prove anything with words. You stop explaining your path, defending your choices, or trying to get people to understand the shifts happening inside you. Because when you've been focused, when you've been silent, when you've been pouring into yourself day after day, something starts to happen. The results begin to show, quietly at first, then all at once. And without even trying, your life starts making the noise for you. That's the beauty of focus and silence. When you stop announcing your goals and start working on them, they stop being goals, they become your reality. No speeches, no big declarations, no long captions needed. You just show up differently. You move differently. You carry a weight in your presence that doesn't need explaining. And people notice. Without you saying in a word, they feel the shift. Because when you've put in the work, real work, the uncomfortable kind that no one sees, it changes you. It shapes your discipline. It sharpens your mindset. It gives you a type of confidence that isn't loud, but undeniable. And that's the kind of confidence that doesn't beg for attention. It just walks into the room and commands it without trying. You don't have to defend your silence when your results are speaking. You don't have to explain your distance when your evolution is obvious. Because the truth is, people remember impact. And impact comes from consistency, not commentary. It comes from showing up day after day, even when no one's clapping, even when no one's watching. That's what makes your results real. They weren't built for show. They were built in solitude, in discipline, in faith. And here's what's powerful. People will start asking questions. What have you been doing? You seem different. Something's changed about you, but you don't owe them the backstory. You don't owe them the late nights, the sacrifices, the healing, the isolation. You don't need to go into detail about the mountains you've climbed in private, because your life is showing them already. You don't speak to be heard. You speak through how you live. That's why the loudest people often aren't the ones growing. They're still in performance mode, still trying to convince the world of something they haven't fully convinced themselves of yet. But the ones who've done the real work, they've moved past needing approval. They're not worried about who's watching because they know the truth success doesn't come from announcing the process. It comes from living it. And it doesn't always mean a flashy lifestyle or viral recognition. Sometimes your results look like peace, like healing, like walking away from chaos without looking back, like saying no without guilt, like finally being able to breathe again. And even if the world doesn't celebrate that kind of success, you will feel it. And that's enough. So let them underestimate you. Let them wonder. Let them assume you fell off, disappeared, or lost your edge. Let them believe whatever they need to believe. Because while they're watching your silence, they have no idea you've been building the kind of momentum that doesn't need to be hyped up, the kind of momentum that speaks when the time is right. And when it does, it won't whisper, it'll roar. The truth is, when you focus on yourself and stay silent long enough, you eventually outgrow the need to say anything. Because results, real, earned, undeniable results, don't just make noise, they echo. So here's what it all comes down to. When you focus on yourself and stay silent, you begin to move differently. You stop seeking noise and start building strength. You stop explaining and start embodying. You pull your energy back from distractions, cut ties with anything misaligned, and protect your peace like it's sacred, because it is. And over time, the silence that once felt uncomfortable becomes your power. The focus that felt lonely becomes your freedom. You realize that not everyone is meant to understand your path, and that's okay. You didn't come here to be understood. You came here to become. And as you grow quietly, privately, intentionally, your results will speak in ways your words never could. Let them. Let the silence shape you. Let the focus refine you, because your evolution doesn't need permission. It just needs consistency. And once you master that, nothing can stop you.